Hey everyone, Josh here. So last week we did a video on installing every mod on my wife's BEW TDI. So this week we've got 5 or 6 more options on budget power mods for these PD engines, which are the BEW, BRM, and BHW to a certain extent. So today it's going to be a lot more in-depth. We got power gains, we're going to do fuel mileage, and then just general drivability. So you've got your 4-cylinder PD diesel here. So you bought it, you want a little bit more power, but you also want to keep the TDI fuel economy and torque. So the next logical step to do is to buy a 10-cylinder PD diesel. That's the next logical step. But if you don't want a 10-cylinder, you want to stick to your 4 cylinders, we got some better options here. All right, so here's the modifications. So my thought for this video was quick and easy modifications that you can do and not require you changing out turbos, clutch, anything like that. So this is as much power as you can get on stock hardware, and the budget's going to kind of fluctuate a little bit depending on your options. So the very first one here we're going to do is the fuel temp resistor and the MAF diode mod. So this is going to be really hot fuel and get rid of the smoke limiter. So it should be as much power as you can get. The issue is this feeds the information back to the ECU, and it's only going to work in the ECU's acceptable range. So I was running into a torque limiter basically to save the transmission and the clutch. So this worked okay, but there's more power available, and that's the next step up is going to be a tuning box. So this is a PSI Motorsports box. Van Aken is another one that's pretty popular, and this isn't to be confused with the OBD plugins such as the Rocket Ship USA or the eBay OBD2 plug-in power chips. So this actually plugs into your injector harness, and it's going to trick signal to your injectors to get more fuel. So we have injector harness at the head, and then power and ground. Pretty simple. So this is just going to affect the quantity of fuel. It might affect timing, I'm not quite sure. The next option is going to be a do-it-yourself tune. So I'm going to do a video on this next week on how to make a do-it-yourself tune. The other option is a file service, which is generally a fairly cheap, fairly basic tune. So the plan here is basically you can add a little bit more fuel, a little bit more timing, a little bit more boost. You have a little bit more options than just more fuel. So you can get it working a little bit better, but the issue is if you don't know what you're doing, you can make a bit of a time bomb with your engine, which these cars aren't new anymore, but you also don't want to be blowing up engines. So this is a bit of a risky one. Next option is going to be buying a name brand ECU off of Marketplace or Kijiji, Craigslist, whatever you have local to you. So the issue with buying these ECUs used is you don't know what it is. I was told it's a Malone Stage 2 BEW tune. So you don't know it. It might have been modified for a different turbo or injectors or stuff like that. You don't know what's actually done to it, and you don't even know if it's a Malone. You're kind of taking a risk at buying used ECUs. I know this is modified, but that's about all I know. The other option is getting a Flashzilla right from, or Tunezilla right from Malone itself and doing a tune that way. Final option here, we're going to do a TekMekTronics tune. So this is going to be just a base tune from TekMekTronics. Basically, they'll send you a base tune, you flash it onto your car, and then you're gonna go and log your car. So I'm gonna jump in here. So I actually got 2 files from Nelson, or from TekMekTronics. So we've got the enhanced stock and the enhanced stock plus. Oops. The enhanced stock will be the one that they just send just for normal kind of beginning base model tune, and then enhanced plus is going to be a bit more fueling. It might lead to boost creep, but just for the purpose of this video, I think I'll use the enhanced stock plus, just kind of see how it runs. If you want to purchase a tune from him or following along, you can check out his Facebook page. It's just TekMekTronics Tuning. I think he was trying to get 2,000 followers by the end of the year, so you can follow and like the page and then message if you want to get a tune. As far as getting it on there, it's going to require a tuning box or tuning cable, so an MPPS cable. So the nice part about the MPPS cable is you can use it on multiple vehicles. So say you have 3 ALHs, you can buy 3 ALH tunes and then use the same cable to flash each file over. Whereas the power gate, the Tunezilla, is locked to a VIN. So that's kind of the downside going that way. I have a different cable that I use for these V10s, but it also works on the Mark IV. So this is what I'm using. So when tuning these TDIs, there's two things that are important to me. So first off, it's going to be power, and the second is going to be fuel mileage, because if you want more power but you didn't care about fuel mileage, a TDI is not for you. And if you care about fuel mileage but not power, then I'd be driving a Nissan Leaf or something like that. So I want to compare both of them, so power and fuel mileage. And how I'm going to do that is I've got a little loop here. We're going to measure out fuel, and we're going to run a draggy. So the plan is we're going to start in my town right here. We're going to drive out here. We're going to keep going down this road, so this is all country roads. And then in here we're going to hit a, well, back here we'll hit a 60 zone, and in here we're going to hit a 50 zone. So all through town here is a 50. We've got a red light right here, we've got a red light right here, and then up here we have a roundabout. So that's about as city driving as I can get around here. And then as we head out of town, this is where I'm going to do a 60 to 100 roll right here. So basically I'm going to start at 50, I'm going to hit foot to the floor, and then we're going to, basically the draggy is going to time 60 to 100. So there's no shifting, that's just the third gear pull from about 2,000 to 4,000 RPM. So carry on, we'll go all the way up here, we'll hit the side road here, and then go back to this main road, where this is a four-way stop here. And then right here is where we're going to do our 0 to 100. So nice, half decent road. We'll carry on, end up back in my town, but it's a fairly short trip here, so we're gonna leave. We're gonna hit another red light here. We're gonna go off the map, back on the map, and then we're gonna come back home. So basically the plan is we're going to measure out fuel. So I've got a scale here. We're going to see how many kilograms of fuel it uses. And this whole loop here is 66.9 kilometers. So quick and easy math. So we'll get going to this loop here. We're gonna get the stock, see how the fuel mileage ends up, and then start doing modifications. All right, so we got our baseline met, so let's start making some power. So just waiting on some traffic to go by here, but I've noticed with the fuel diode, or fuel resistor and MAP diode, it's fairly smoky in town. You notice a difference, but you're about, say you shift at 2,500 RPM and it drops back down to 1,500 after the shift. It's pretty smoky from that 1,500 to 2,000. So it's, yeah, you're rolling coal everywhere basically. But now we're about to do a 60 to 100 roll, so let's see how that goes. I've got a feeling this resistor or this box is going to be the most thirstiest. But anyways, so we're going to weigh the fuel. Actually, zero that out. So starting out at 16.0, call that 8. Car is full, so now we reweigh. Now we're at 12.8, call that 2.5. And then we do a little bit of math. Man, this is getting dark at 5, kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So we're gonna get these resistors back out, put it back to stock, and then get this tuning box plugged in. So you've got your connector here for your fuel injectors, so we'll unplug that, put that in, and then yeah, power and ground. Okay, so the connector itself, it's got a little red locking tab up here. So you should be able to slide it out and then just rotate that lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Okay, so we've got it plugged in and then just kind of looped it around. I shoved it in here and then positive ground. So let's see if it starts. That's kind of the bare minimum. As long as it starts, we should be good. If not, somebody sold me a bad tuning box. There we go. Let's go see how this works. So the tuning box, you can definitely feel a difference. Where the resistor, you could kind of feel the torque down low and then it would kind of taper off. This thing kind of pulls all the way through. So we're gonna try it with the draggy, just make sure it's not me feeling like it's got more power, and see that it's actually got more power. So we'll try that 60 to 100 roll, and then we'll do a do the 0 to 100 here yet too. Gotta say, I really underestimated how long this video is gonna take, but we're gonna get the tuning box off. We're gonna get my software put on, so it's gonna be my tune that I made, and we're gonna weigh some fuel and do this all over again. We're about, I think this is halfway there, so it'll be a late night. Okay, so we're gonna let it do its thing, and then we're gonna get this tuning box. So I'm just gonna unplug it from here for the time being, and we'll get some fuel in while that thing's doing flashing the new file on. So it should be 10 minutes or so, so I should have lots of time, and we'll carry on. So it said tuning successful. I've got the tuning box unplugged, so let's see if it starts, and then we'll go for a drive. Good to go. Okay, so up next we're gonna get my ECU out of here and get the tuned one in. So the ECU hides in this cowl here. Oh. You can just see the connectors there. So you have to get the wiper arms pulled off, get this cowl kind of popped up out of the way, and then you can get this ECU out and then get your tuned immobilizer defeated ECU in. So we're gonna get this swapped over and get some fuel in it and carry on. Okay, I'm not even out of town here with the Malone tune on here, and I know I left a lot on the table. It's night and day difference. My tune's gotten the best fuel mileage out of everything so far, but I have a feeling these professional tunes are gonna be a lot better. So maybe next week when I go to do a how-to on making tunes, I might, or making your own tune, I might try and refine mine a little bit and see if I can't redeem myself a bit. So we're on day 2, so of course it's snowing. Last night it was getting pretty icy, about 10:30 or so. Roads are starting to kind of flash over, so I decided to call it quits then. There's also a lot of combining corn, and they're unloading on the roads because of how wet it is, so that was a bit of a pain. But I've got the Malone tune in there right now, so I'm just going to do a bit of a refresher in my mind when I go get some fuel. And we're going to get this TekMekTronics tune flashed on. So the Malone tune is night and day difference compared to mine, and also the tuning box and resistor diode. But it is a little bit smokier than mine. I would say it's similar to the resistor mod, but let's just kind of, if you drive it nice, it's not bad, but yeah, floor it, there's a bit of smoke. Alright, so we've got just the enhanced stock on right now. So I'm just gonna do the pulls with this one, and then we're gonna go back, we're gonna put the enhanced plus on, and then we'll actually do the fuel mileage along with the pulls on that one, just to kind of save a bit of time. I'm noticing the low end, like below 2000 RPM, it's a little bit not as responsive as the Malone one, but above it, it feels like it pulls harder. So we'll run the draggy and see if the numbers are the same as kind of the feeling. Okay, so it's putting the plus file on there now, so we're gonna get this thing fueled up and then go for a nice little drive out in the snow. we're back. So it's getting pretty snowy, so I'm glad to be finally done this. But so it's all filled up, so now we can crunch some numbers and see fuel mileage wise how they all stack up together. Okay, so now we have our nice spreadsheet here. So we've got the power adder, fuel consumed in kilograms, fuel consumption in both liters per 100 kilometers and miles to the gallon, the 60 to 100 roll, and then when I was doing the 0 to 100 pull, it also had the 0 to 60. So in last place, we've got the stock, which would be our baseline. So I don't have the fuel consumed because I had to get the fuel in the next town over. So I calculated fuel mileage. So 5.74 liters to 100 kilometers, which was 40.98 miles to the gallon. So this is winter fuel. The car has winter tires on it, and it also has roof racks. So we got three things going against it. So that's making a fairly bad fuel mileage. But our 60 to 100 roll is 7.92 seconds. The 0 to 60 was 6.31, and the 0 to 100 was 14.52. So that's quite the race car. So in sixth place, which would be the very last for the modifications, if might be a surprise, it might not be, that would be the resistor diode. So we consumed 3.255 kilograms, which came out with 5.723 liters to 100 kilometers, which is 41.1 miles to the gallon. So marginally better. The 60 to 100 roll was 7.35 seconds, so it increased it a bit. The 0 to 60 was 5.55, and the 0 to 100 was 12.74. So this resistor diode, you can feel it really in the bottom end, which that would be, you kind of see it in that 0 to 60 time. But once it gets up higher, it hits that torque limiter that we were talking about in that last video. So it had some flaws. So fifth place, or which would be second last, would be the tuning box. So that's the PSI Motorsports tuning box. It got terrible fuel mileage, so 4.118 kilograms. So that was 6.155 liters to 100 kilometers, or 38.2 miles a gallon. So you almost lost 3 miles a gallon. One thing that I think we would make that tuning box a lot better is, instead of hooking it straight to power and ground on the battery, put it on a toggle switch. So then when you want the power, you can flick it on, and when you don't want it, you can shut it off. It works, like, if power goes through it fine when there's not power to the tuning box, so it should just be stock. So that might make it a bit better on fuel mileage. The 60 to 100 roll was 6.47 seconds, the 0 to 60 was 5.78, and the 0 to 100 was 12.63. So the times can be a little bit skewed off with my launch and with shifting, but I definitely feel the tuning box had a little bit more power and ran a little bit cleaner. So fourth place, sadly, will be my tune. So it was 3.19 kilograms, so 5.61 liters to 100 kilometers, which would be 41.93 miles a gallon. So I gained 1 miles a gallon. The 60 to 100 roll was 6.35 seconds. The 0 to 60 was 5.92, and the 0 to 100 was 12.83. So I think I left a little bit on the table, so I could have probably added more fuel down low. But I think that would also end up hurting my fuel mileage that ended up there. So up next, we're going to do third place, which was the Malone tune. So I can't say for certain, for sure, that it was Malone Stage 2. That's just what I was told when I bought the ECU. So 3.65 kgs, so that's 6.42 liters to 100 kilometers, or 36.64 miles to the gallon. So it lost, what's that, 4 or 5 miles to the gallon. So it took a pretty big hit. It ran pretty rich every gear, like quite a bit of fuel, quite a bit of smoke as well. But then as far as power, so the 6.08 seconds in the 60 to 100 roll, the 0 to 60 was 5.78, and the 0 to 100 was 12.31 seconds. So I just want to reiterate, that wasn't straight from Malone. That's just what I bought off Marketplace. So that might just be a generic Stage 2 tune. We don't know for sure, but that's just what I was told. So up next was the TekMekTronics base tune. I would maybe, we didn't do the fuel mileage on this. As far as the drivability, I think the Malone Stage 2 tune was a little bit nicer on the bottom end, but again, this was just the base tune. There's no modifications, no logging done to it. The 60 to 100 roll was 4.74 seconds. The 0 to 60 was 6.14 seconds, and the 0 to 100 was 12.14 seconds. So when I said it in the video, you kind of feel it in the down low, below 2000 RPM. It was a little bit laggy, and then it would pick up. I imagine that would get cleaned up during the next logging session. So in first place would be the base plus tune. So that was 3.1 kgs. So that's 5.45 liters to 100 kilometers, or 43.16 miles to the gallon. So you gain 2 miles to the gallon. It was also quite a bit quicker. The 60 to 100 roll was 4.81 seconds. The 0 to 60 was 5.6 seconds, and the 0 to 100 was 11.32 seconds. So you could feel it pull a lot harder all through all the gears, and it was also quite a bit better on fuel mileage. So again, both of these TekMekTronics tunes were just base tunes. There was no logging done to it. This was just, here's the file, try it. So I would imagine it could get cleaned up better yet. TekMekTronics, the base plus tune, it was a little bit more smokier, but I wouldn't say it was anywhere close to the Malone stage 2 or the tuning box and resistor diode. Just a light haze all throughout all the gears. But yeah, the fuel mileage was definitely a nice bump as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. I know I did a lot of driving in a car that I probably shouldn't have been. I think I drove about 500 kilometers in it between yesterday and today. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I really liked seeing the fuel mileage and the power gains. But if you enjoyed it, stay tuned, because I've got an ALH ECU here. So I plan on the springtime, once the roads are dry again, get my car back to stock, and then we're gonna do a bunch of budget mods, because the ALH has a lot more options before having to get into bigger turbos and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.